Greetings, I'm John Spirit, I'm constantly scaling, and welcome to Pyanodons Supershorts. Today we need to get those burners up, which means we need titanium, which means we need acetylene. If time permits, we'll either make duralumin, or get our rubber stopper production up to snuff with our glassworks. Step 1, acetylene, which requires calcium carbide, which requires coke, and lime, which also requires coke. Right now I'm producing 52.3 coke per minute. Let's see how much acetylene we can make with this. It looks like I can make 120 acetylene per minute from 12 coke per minute. This boiler uses a minuscule amount of coke, and so does this one. It looks like this one is basically constantly running, and it uses 12 of my coke per minute. I think I can feasibly multiply this to about 300 acetylene per minute. To limit it so it doesn't use all the coke I'm producing, I'm using a splitter, and I'm going to use the other half of the coke directly as opposed to using robots. To make the acetylene, we'll need a soil extractor, 2 high-pressure furnaces, and a gasifier. In a glorious spaghetti, I've crammed my production right down here. Coke is pulled into these high-pressure furnaces. Water will make limestone and flow into the acetylene producer, and once limestone gets pulled into this high-pressure furnace, we'll get lime and carbon dioxide. To take care of the carbon dioxide, I'm going to use a moss farm. It's barely ever going to run. As slake lime currently has no particular usage, I'm just going to vent it with a sinkhole, which I can now make. But my acetylene can now go to running titanium. 1 mining drill of lead will use 60 acetylene per minute. We have 300 total. 1 lead miner will use 150 per minute though, which is pretty bad. So we can either run 2 lead miners or 5 titanium miners. I think what I'm going to do is run 1 lead miner and 2 titanium miners. By an awful lot of pipe spaghetti, I have routed the acetylene around this coal field in order to get down over to here where I've hooked it up to the acetylene generator. The unfortunate byproduct of the way that I'm producing coke, however, means that my acetylene is actually not running at full speed because the coal gas is not always being used. This is because my rubber stopper production is insufficient. I used my sap extractor to make a bunch of sap trees so that I could make these 3 sap extractors start running at full speed because sap was the bottleneck to my creamy latex. In general, our next project is to ensure that we're getting enough rubber stoppers to support the system. I'm going to enter the glassware subfloor and then make rubber stoppers. We need to keep 1 pulp mill running constantly, which means we need 12 sap per minute. That's going to be just 1 more of these machines. We'll need to add a 3rd seaweed farm, which is trivial. And it looks like we'll need 1.5 soil extractors, so 1 soil extractor specifically for this high pressure furnace for limestone. We'll need to add a 2nd high pressure furnace to be able to handle all that carbon dioxide for the formic acid, however. And since we have discovered that this isn't running at full speed, it probably won't be making sufficient coke. Well, wait, scratch that. If we make this system run at full speed by supplying the 15 coke per minute, I think that therefore this destructive distillation column will run fast enough. We know that our byproducts are 45 coke per minute, which means that we'll only use 1/3 of that for the formic acid. We'll just need to find out how much we'll need for the moss afterwards. With these 2 sap trees, however, we should now have sufficient sap to run this washer constantly, or like 8/10 of constantly. The 900 steam per minute we need will be satisfied by just 1/4 of a boiler. That will use 5.4 coke per minute. So far, it does look like our coal gas is running down faster. Before we install a 2nd high pressure furnace for carbon dioxide, I do want to determine what we need in order to run all 4.5 petri dishes per minute. 1 petri dish corresponds to 10 basic substrates. Thus, I'm trying to make 45 basic substrates per minute. It looks like the carbon dioxide for the moss will require in and of itself over 1.5 high pressure furnaces, so I'll need 3 high pressure furnaces after all. Which finds me in the unfortunate position of not being able to use all the coke I produce for acetylene. I'm going to have to find another source of coke. Oh no, I'm going to need 1.5 microorganism mines, too many. And I'm going to have to upgrade to another 2 extra seaweed crop facilities. I've moved my 3 seaweed farms down here, and they're going to feed directly into agar using a chute. Rather than robot the coke over here, I think I'm going to make my carbon dioxide all down here and then route it up using pipe spaghetti. I'll reduce down to 1 boiler and pump the steam everywhere as well. Here you can see I placed this boiler down and I've connected steam up and removed the boiler I had up here. I will abandon ship of my acetylene. This was a bad place to put it anyway, so look how fast we turned. I have a chute pulling agar out of the high pressure furnace and putting it into the petri dish maker. After rerouting the water pipe spaghetti so that the seaweed line is what runs the limestone and the sodium alginate here, I can now easily fit my 2 microorganism mines. Quick note, I'm researching botany for the wood. I've moved my soil extractor here with the others to match with the limestone motif, and here's the cellulose that I'm making. Here's 2 moss farms that are going to load moss onto one side of the belt with extreme belt spaghetti, and some chutes pulling out of the limestone, which will load cellulose, onto the other side of the belt. I promise this works, I promise. And with this assembly machine smack dab in the middle, we can now produce basic substrate again. Theoretically, this system should use all 6 of these gasifiers constantly. So far, that seems to be precisely what it's doing. And we've got a very nice surplus of red science that will quickly boost us through botany and get us that tree farm I so desperately want. I have daisy chained a few labs to quintuple my research speed, and while we wait for that to research up, let's plan for our tree farm. This research setup is obviously temporary, as is everything in Pyanodons mods. But it's producing everything in the ratios I want, defined basically by the existence of those 6 glassworks. One last thing I wanted to do was supply the coal gas from the destructive distillation column to the aluminium drills again. You can never have enough aluminium in Pyanodons. And another problem has beset us, we are too low on power. Thankfully, I can still double this entire system. However, continually doubling that system isn't going to work for us for a long time, so I think the next power source I'm going to use is combustion mixture, possibly using syngas, possibly using hydrogen, we'll find out. I want to create modular wood systems. I can just slap down a bunch of them and then take the wood and do whatever I want with it, that's my hope. Here's how wood works. You grow using tree seedlings, logs, and fastwood forestries. You cut the logs into wood, and then you can make the woods back into tree seeds and tree seedlings. To make the moss, we need carbon dioxide. However, there is a recipe we'll get once we unlock composting that lets us use biomass to make carbon dioxide, which is very good, because you can make biomass at an exceptional rate from wood. Using Factory Planner's very simple matrix solver, I figured out that the best modular system I can use, at least right now, involves precisely 2 moss farms, I'm not going to make more than 2, slightly less than 8 fastwood forestries, slightly less than 3 botanical nurseries, and some reasonable amounts of other stuff. So my imminent goal is to design something that looks really nice. The one problem in the way is that I want to expand my factory upward, and the water is all the way down here. For now, however, I think I'm willing to expand to the left, but it would help me to get a pump jack from oil industry machinery, which will allow me to get water from anywhere. The problem is that it requires so much research. And right now I just want to make trees. Additionally, composting is a ways away, so until then we need to use coke, which means we'll need to destructive distillation column our wood into coke in order to use that for carbon dioxide temporarily. So let's name this factory Optimal Wood and see what we'll need to deal with before we get composting. It's not terrible, it just means I need 10 fastwood forestries to create 160 wood. So this will be, as usual, a temporary setup, in which I will be discarding iron oxide, coal gas, and tar, because I want to be wasteful, I don't. Although it'll take me 100 researches, I'm going to research the engine unit because I need it for the fastwood forestries. If you're wondering why I'm so urgently gunning for a tree farm, it's because cellulose keeps dying out. But still we plod along, soon to tend to our wood woes. For now, that's it for today's episode. Next episode, we'll work on a tree farm, and then probably immediately replace it with the next tree farm. Except for the small bottleneck that we'll need duralumin, which is going to come into play soon. As always, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. Comments and likes will help me in the YouTube algorithm if you'd like to leave them. I hope you enjoyed, and God bless you all. Oh, and I'm researching mining machines next.